At the final Veterans Day ceremony of his term. A little later in the hour, we're going to talk about the hope veterans have in President-elect Donald Trump after he made taking care of those who served one of his campaign top promises. This is Outnumbered. Welcome to it on a glorious Friday. I'm Kennedy. And here today, it's co-host of After the Bell on the Fox Business Network, Melissa Francis. Also from FBN, our co-host and co-worker, Dagan McDowell. And Fox News political and legal analyst, Ebony Williams, is here today. And today's hashtag One Lucky Guy, we welcome back the co-host of The Five and host of Cashin' In. It's Eric Bowling. And Eric is outnumbered. Eric, welcome.
Thank you. And I am so honored to be on this couch on this so important day, Veterans Day. What an important day to be here. I'm very proud. Thank you to all our heroes who we owe a debt of gratitude to and we'll never be able to repay. But thank you to every single person who's serving
those who wear,
or has served, and the families of those who serve.
Indeed. Absolutely. And Eric, I have to ask you this before we get going. This monumentous week, you are the author of the book Wake Up America. Has America woken up in your
The very, very interesting thing is, you know what's on the back of that book? About a year and a half ago, I started writing that book, and I asked a good friend of mine, a businessman named Donald Trump, to read the book and put a quote on the back of the book, and he did. The book's all about what he did. He said, let's push back on the PC culture in this country. Let's wake the country up, and it's amazing he did.
And we have much to discuss today, so let's start off making way for the Trump presidency. The transition now underway as President-elect Donald Trump begins to lay out his agenda following a whirlwind of a day in our nation's capital. First, making peace with President Obama. We saw that on the couch yesterday. Sitting down and shaking hands with the man he will replace on January 20th. Both leaders setting aside their differences as they pledge to work together for a smooth transition. Then Mr. Trump off to the other side of Pennsylvania Avenue, going to Capitol Hill, where he met with the Republican Speaker of the House, Paul Ryan, and the President-elect also meeting with Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, both Republican leaders promising to work swiftly with Mr. Trump to get their shared agenda passed. President-elect Trump giving a glimpse of his first-term plans as he was trailed by a horde of reporters on Capitol Hill. Watch this.
A lot of priorities, a lot of really good priorities. People will be very, very happy.
What's the top three?
Well, we have a lot. We're very strong in immigration, healthcare, and we're looking at jobs.
All right. It seems as though, Eric, that's where he has to start. Those voters, especially in the Midwest, who gave him somewhat of a mandate. And I think the economy and jobs is where you start. How does he do that?
Well, he does that first. Well, I think first, he was leaving the meeting with the president. Someone said, "What is your, first initiative going to be?"
Yeah.
And he threw some things out there. But I think what he did, he promised through this massive 600-day campaign that he was going to build a wall. He was also going to repeal Obamacare, and he was going to repeal all of President Obama's executive orders. I think that's what he's going to do day one. A lot of these things he can make the claim will actually create jobs. So take care of the jobs claim. The big one, though, and I think this is going to happen right away, and I think this is going to probably be bipartisan or nonpartisan accepted, is that $1 trillion infrastructure bill that he says he floated. He said he would like to spend $1 trillion in infrastructure going 10 years forward. Man, what a great idea. Republicans will probably push back on it, but at the end of the day, I'm on the paid for part of it, but it's a great idea, you guys.
Especially some of those conservative caucuses in Congress who are the ones who tend to watch the bottom line. But how does a president do it? Is it a matter of proactively creating programs that create jobs, which, pretty much every politician loves, or will this be a president that actually allows government to get out of the way and stokes the engine in that way?
I think that's what it's about. It's about taking the shackles off immediately, and I think that's easily done in striking through a lot of the regulation that came, especially at the end. You can do that with the flash of a pen. I mean, it's about an optimism that we're seeing in the market right now where people believe that Donald Trump is going to free up the economy and free up business to do what it does best. And he can show that right away by peeling back some of the regulation. He can also he can fix the tax code pretty quickly and get companies to repatriate dollars, bring them back to the U.S. and hire people. Those are things that can be done quickly and would have a big impact. I think he should do that first. first, because it would take a second to feel the effects of that, and that's what people are looking for. You need to get started with
Yeah, and he had those meetings yesterday with Leader McConnell and Speaker Ryan. So how do you do that? I mean, you talk about making a more friendly environment for business in this country. That's what you talk about day in and day out.
I've said it, his candidacy, and he didn't express it like this, but to Eric's point is, who makes a better decision about your money, your business? Do you, the business owner, operator, the individual, or does the government? And that is the overarching message of his candidacy and now his presidency. Did you see Paul Ryan on with Brett Baer last night? He looked like he had just found a Red Ryder air rifle under the Christmas tree. He is fired up, and it was, I thought, legitimately excited about the possibilities of what a Trump presidency means for tax reform, for a 15% corporate tax rate, which would definitely spur business. And I don't think that people fully comprehend the number of rules and regulations that came out of the Obama White House. Not just Obamacare, not just Dodd-Frank, not just re-regulating the internet, nationalizing student loans and crushing the coal industry, but there were more than 600 economically significant rules totaling about $750 billion. That works out to be $2,300 for every American in terms of the regulatory costs.
Yeah, and
in the last.
I mean, and you see how the economy has been crushed under the sheer mathematics of that kind of regulation. So what do you do first? What's first on your agenda as President-elect Trump?
I think President-elect Trump has to lead with opportunities. And he talked a lot about this on the campaign trail, which was this notion of bringing back these manufacturing jobs, particularly to the Midwest, which largely are responsible for him going to the White House. And I think that's a great opportunity. I think that is a place where he can start. He can talk about whether it's tariffs, really kind of being a strong arm on this America First message that says, you know what, we're not going to get the short end of the stick anymore when it comes to China and other places that many of our jobs have gone, Mexico, and you like it. And he can say, you know what, there's going to be an incentive to build things in America again, and I think that will be something that is going to be really welcomed.
Can I throw something on here? From the minute Donald Trump started to win the election, remember there was a big dip in the Dow on Tuesday night.
Absolutely, we were all watching that.
The Dow has now made 2 record high closes the last 2 days. It's up all-time highs.
We're talking about this.
We're going to talk. We're going to touch on that.
Hold on, my friend. Is that it takes in what Melissa said about regulation, what Dagan said about taxes, what Ebony said about jobs, and what we've all said about a different type of leader in D.C., and that's really what's happening here. And you watch, it's good for business. It's good for business. If it's good for business, it's good for jobs.
And it's multi-pronged. So to your point, Eric, about the infrastructure stuff, I know the spending is going to be getting pushback from the GOP, but look, there's one opportunity here with infrastructure and government spending, another opportunity with private sector development. I like the multi-pronged.
I do think it's funny because President Obama never gave a speech about the economy that he didn't talk about infrastructure spending. But there's a rich. So I have a
lot of rich ironies here. There are a lot of rich ironies. Meantime, President Obama says his top priority is an orderly transition, as he struck a gracious tone during his meeting with the president-elect. But later, Press Secretary Josh Earnest was asked whether the president still held the same views about his successor that he expressed during the campaign, in which he called Mr. Trump temperamentally unfit and uniquely unqualified to be president. Listen.
The president's views haven't changed. He stands by what he said on the campaign trail. He had an opportunity to make his argument. He made that argument vigorously. He made that argument in states all across the country. But the American people decided. The election is over. The president didn't get to choose his successor. The American people did.
See, that's interesting, Eric. I respect that. He's saying he sticks by what he said before, but he's striking a conciliatory tone. I think there's something richly ironic in what Paul Ryan did, because here's somebody who basically abandoned him at the end and now is reaping the benefits because he gets the presidency and the House and the Senate. Although, you know, maybe you say by dividing, that's how they delivered all three of those things.
Isn't it ironic?
It's interesting to see everyone.
That no one saw a Trump presidency. Now what you have is a Trump presidency with a Senate and with a House. He could be the most powerful Republican president in decades, maybe even many decades.
So ironic.
I don't like this, though. I don't like where the same day President Obama says, or within hours of President Obama saying, hey, we need to strike a conciliatory tone, we need to work together, and then Josh Earnest goes back to throwing daggers at Donald Trump, saying,
but you know what? It wasn't
but
throwing
saying
daggers.
he stands by his original comment that Donald Trump is temperamentally unfit to lead the country.
What's he supposed to say? I was lying.
There's
then?
a time for that, Melissa. Let this presidency breathe. Give it. Nancy Pelosi didn't take shots. Hillary Clinton didn't take shots. President Obama didn't.
I don't think President Obama thought that he was going to be in the position to have to welcome Donald Trump to the White House.
He made a joke about it on Jimmy Kimmel on Mean Tweets. He read a tweet from Donald Trump about Barack Obama is the worst president that the U.S. has ever had, and he said, well, at least I know what it's like to be president. Well, Donald Trump is going to know that.
Yeah, I don't think he thought he was going to be in that position, but they had a lot to talk about because they both beat Hillary Clinton.
Yes, and I don't think it really was a dagger, though, E. When you look at the press conference from start to finish, I think it like 6 times. This was really a press-driven thing. They were really, to me, poking the nest on that one. It must have asked him 6, 7 times. Does the president still think he's unfit? Does the president still think he's the worst thing since sliced bread? And finally, I think, Ernest, just out of
don't forget, we've had 2 nights of protests. We've had people, breaking glass and calling for, in some cases, violence against the president-elect. And Josh Earnest, he just shouldn't have gone there.
He didn't go there, though.
He could have given a calming time.
A week ago was tying Donald Trump to the Ku Klux Klan. Yeah. So people are not going to forget that. Wait, it was a week ago. People are not going to forget that. And I will add one thing. President Bush has said nothing in 8 years. He has been quiet and he showed class, respect, and grace. Can President Obama do the same thing, at least in the next 4 years, because he likes a spotlight like Madonna?
I
don't know if he's going to be able to do that.
I think that he can, and I think this. I think President Obama didn't just tie the KKK to Donald Trump. They endorsed him publicly, so that's not necessarily on President Obama. But I think this. I think Josh Earnest said we are not relitigating what President Obama thinks about Donald Trump. He said that plainly. The people have spoken. We accept that as an administration.
He could have just said, look, the president just said we need to unite the country. He could have left it at that.
Exactly. And these are 2 politicians, because Donald Trump is now, for better or worse, a politician. They understand each other. I mean, they both fight in a very similar way. Yep. And in that, Josh Earnest could have said, you know what, these campaigns get tough and emotional and personal, and there is more on the line for this job than any other in the world. And left it at that without saying, it was very passive aggressive to say, well, the president still thinks he's unfit for the presidency. It's like, at this point, it doesn't matter, so don't even bring it up.
Okay.
Donald Trump's team calling on President Obama or Hillary Clinton to speak out against calls for political violence after an anti-Trump riot erupted in the streets of Portland last night, where protesters threw bricks and firecrackers at police officers, vandalizing local businesses, damaging cars. Things were more peaceful in other parts of the country as thousands also filled the streets again from Dallas to New York, prompting President-elect Donald Trump to initially tweet, quote, just had a very open and successful presidential election. Now professional protesters, incited by the media, are protesting. Very unfair. But he changed his tone this morning, writing, quote, love the fact that the small groups of protesters last night have passion for our great country. We will all come together and be proud. Eric Bowling, is this what the next 4 years is going to look like?
No, I think it'll look like this until it either starts raining or snowing, and then these protesters, the little babies, will go back home to mommy.
Like they did at Occupy Wall Street.
Exactly. Occupy Wall Street, the protest during the Trump, during the very early primaries. Remember those? They were protesting in California, in Michigan. Look, get over it. This is the process. This is democracy. If you have a problem with democracy, get out and vote and get things changed. And then, if you protest peacefully. Yep. You don't have a right to break a window or to call for violence or to do what you're seeing right there, or to close a business.
You know what? Thanks to Antonin Scalia, in part, they have a right under the First Amendment to burn the American flag, but it's a stupid, idiotic idea. Well, and it's disrespectful.
I totally agree. I wear the flag every day for a reason and agree with you, and especially on this day. But go ahead, protest. I'm absolutely for protest. I'm all for it. Yep. Just don't.
Yeah, you
disrupt
can't
business and don't
protest
hurt anybody.
in places like North Korea and China. I mean, that's for sure. And it is a sacred right to gather peacefully. But you know, I know a lot of people in law enforcement in Oregon and the Multnomah County Sheriff's Office and the Portland Police Department. My brother was a cop there for a long time. Don't go after the police and don't go after small businesses in Portland. You know, it's like this election was about people who want something different because their lives aren't working, particularly economically. And when you go and you burn down these buildings and you break windows, it's a big hassle for mom and pop stores who are working like crazy to stay in business.
Also, can I address
and it's about these anarchists that have shown up since the 1999 WTO riots.
Before we move on, I want to get to something Bill O'Reilly talked about last night because he thinks there's something more deep-seated and dangerous going on. Let's listen to this.
Is there a civil war brewing in the USA? That is the subject of this evening's Talking Points memo. Here in the USA, we honor protest, but increasingly, we are seeing people who want our system destroyed. If you hurt someone, destroy something, or promote anarchy, you then become a danger to the republic. That kind of stuff needs to be punished, and quickly.
Also, I mean, this whole idea, I've heard people on our network saying there's no evidence that there are paid protesters out there. There absolutely are. I mean, I myself have seen the ads on Craigslist where they're offering to go and pay people to show up and protest. I mean, you have the right to do that, I guess, but it is the idea that this isn't a naturally occurring organic outburst where people are so upset that they're taking this to the street together in unison. I mean, they're being rallied together on Craigslist and paid to show up and do this. So, I mean, that's worth taking a look at.
I think if you're going to protest, you should have to show your I voted sticker.
Let me say this.
True.
Donald Trump was not my candidate. And I woke up Wednesday morning feeling incredibly American, because that is what democracy looks like. We all had an opportunity to express our political preference, and Donald Trump was the will of the American people. And I understand that there are people across this country grieving around that. They're sad about it, just like there were people grieving in 2008, though, Eric. I was in North Carolina, and people were very sad in many parts of this country with President Obama's election, and I understood that. But let me finish this one point. That peaceful protest is a fantastic constitutionally protected right in this country. Violence, to your point, Eric, is not. In fact, it's criminal. And I'm going to personally put out a charge to President Obama because I think he is most uniquely positioned to address this issue. To O'Reilly's point about a civil war, perhaps some of that is true. Maybe it's deeper than that. And I think the president has to be one of the most important critical steps in maintaining a level of decency and understanding around this.
May I add another group?
Yes.
The media.
Absolutely.
The media,
Yes.
the mainstream media, left
read
media.
my mind, Mr. Bolton.
They're crying, they're heartbroken, they can't believe this has happened.
Sure.
Instead of being journalists and saying, hey, this is the system, this is democracy, he won fair and square, stop it. Instead, they're feeding the narrative of these
That's what I'm
protesters.
saying with Eric. That's what I'm saying with Josh Earnest yesterday. To your point, I agree. They were poking him. I think the media, the press, was wanting to see this Trump v. Obama thing, and it's nasty.
What would the headlines have looked like if Hillary Clinton had won and you had one protest by some Trump supporters?
And one act of violence.
Racist, sexist, rage-filled Trump protesters.
How about WikiLeaks? How about WikiLeaks exposing the fact that some of the violence at the Trump rallies was actually paid violence?
Right.
People from the left.
That's I like having the journal.
Let me just finish the thought. It would have been people who can't live with a woman being president. We're already seeing that. Jennifer Lawrence wrote that this country was founded on immigration. This is that actress, in case you don't know who she is. And today, the only people who feel safe, that their rights are recognized and respected, are white men.
But as for the journalists sitting out there, as for the journalists sitting out there and crying that you don't like, see, I actually like that because I think they're showing the American people where their bias actually is, so that they can see straight up.
Yeah,
that
and
these people
you
were
can
on
see
Hillary
right through it.
Clinton's
And by
side.
the way, why not
honest.
approach this with a little bit of respect and curiosity? You don't have to agree with the outcome. You don't have to cheer the results. But as journalists, people should be asking why. Why did this happen? Who were the people that felt so underserved by the establishment? And, you know, maybe the protesters out there have a lot in common with the people who voted because they all want to see a change in the establishment.
Those people who were disaffected went out and voted for Trump, and I wonder if those dopes who are protesting and burning flags voted. That's my only question. A high-stakes decision for the president-elect, Mr. Trump preparing to appoint his cabinet members, top surrogates like Rudy Giuliani, among those reportedly being considered. Who should he choose? And will there be any surprises? Plus, the Dow Jones Industrial Average hitting new all-time highs after Mr. Trump's win, despite many on Wall Street warning that stocks would tank. They would go to hell in a handbasket. But will the rally continue? And what could his victory mean for your money?
Welcome back. This is Outnumbered. Glad to have you on the couch. With his inauguration just over 2 months away, President-elect Donald Trump now has some tough choices to make. He is in New York today deciding who he wants to join his cabinet. There's talk that top positions could go to some of his main surrogates, including Chris Christie, Newt Gingrich, Ben Carson, and former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani. Some of them asked about whether they'd accept a position.
Is there any one position you'd prefer?
Right now, I'm pretty happy where I am. So it would have to be something where I believe that only I could do that.
Have you been asked to take a position?
We're discussing these things. I personally feel that you can do a lot from outside, but if that were the only way that it could be done, obviously I'm going to do what needs to be done to assist.
All right, 3 of those 4 top names mentioned have, of course, been one lucky guys right here on the Outnumbered Couch. So I'm going to turn to our luckiest guy today. It's Friday's Eric Bolling. So, Eric, let's talk about, the people who have been mentioned in contention. Rudy Giuliani, Chris Christie, Newt Gingrich, and Ben Carson. Start with those 4. Where do you see them?
Look, I think Rudy is a huge asset. By the way, Donald Trump, I've known him for 20 years, very, very loyal to the people who've been loyal to him. There are some rough goes, some campaign issues, bumps that these people stood by him.
Oh, you think?
I think Ben Carson is the right guy for Surgeon General because he knows everything about the healthcare system, the insurance system. He's the right guy to repeal and replace, working with Paul Ryan. Newt, apparently, I'm hearing, I hate speculating on these things, by the way. I don't think Chris Christie is in line for the top job, that AG job that people say, because of what's going on with Bridgegate. I will tell you, though, the big question, there's some people who've been loyal to him who he's very close to. Number 1, Kellyanne Conway, she brought the campaign back to center.
Does he make her chief of staff?
Number 2,
I mean, she seems to have the temperament for it.
Extremely helpful to him as well.
Yeah.
Number 3, Steve Bannon is working, the strings behind the scenes. He's there too.
Yeah.
There's some 3 very, very important people. Jared Kushner, I believe, is his son-in-law. His son-in-law. It's Ivanka's husband. I think he is probably one of the smartest people in that whole campaign. He sees the picture and he stayed behind the scenes. I know personally, a very, very smart man. There are some very important people. I don't know how you make one If I were him, I'd say, here's my group of advisors. Here's my chief advisors. I can't name one.
Okay, now let's talk about this. You are one of the people who has supported Donald Trump through the entire process. Yeah. You predicted his victory. And no matter what anyone said or any poll said, you were there saying, just wait and see. Have you talked to Donald Trump at all about a part in his administration?
No, I have not talked about Donald Trump about that. I've spoken to Donald and the campaign, congratulating them.
Yes.
And look, it was a rough road being behind Donald Trump for some of those months. But and Kennedy, you and I have talked about this quite a bit. When these polls were showing him down by 4, down by 5 nationally, down by 10 in his state, and I said, take a look at the methodology. The people that they're polling, that's not indicative of the American people. And I said, stop watching polls and start watching people. Go look at these.
People discounted that, and they said that is wishful thinking. That is wishful thinking on your part. But it turned out to be
a liar. I was told I was lying to the viewer because I wanted Trump. That wasn't it. I saw something different in that.
All right, so Dagan, he has talked about draining the swamp, making a huge shift, a paradigm shift, a personnel shift in Washington. But a lot of the names we're hearing are very familiar faces around Washington, D.C.
Because you know what? You need people with political experience who know how to pilot an airboat through the swamp, because it's not going away anytime soon. Washington is a morass. It is a giant bureaucracy, and Donald Trump, with all his good intentions, is not going to be able to dismantle it, certainly not even in the ever, maybe. So you need people.
Oh, come on, we're more hopeful than that.
No, I think the people that what you went through, though, it's a good mix of people outside of government and people with serious, deep government experience, whether it's Rudy being a prosecutor, whether it's particularly Newt Gingrich's experience. But if this has ever crossed your mind, I have to ask you this question. Why in the heck would you want to work in the government?
Well, because I don't think Donald Trump's government is going to be government as usual.
Right.
In fact, if I were him, I would say something. If you're going to apply, literally tens of thousands of people are applying, I would say if you have experience in D.C., don't bother applying.
DC's not going, but DC, it's a giant apparatus of people with agencies. Those, you don't dismantle those agencies that easily. And if you know what, they've got the, I'm letting you know, they've got the knives out. They've got the knives out inside and outside the Beltway down there. They're ready for it, and it's going to be a headache. You're pulling a wagon, and it's tough going.
One name that we didn't say that was on the couch, Ambassador John Bolton.
Yes.
Another great name.
Secretary of State.
You would think. All right. President-elect Trump's win appears to be firing up the stock market like crazy. The Dow jumping more than 200 points to close at a new record high yesterday. Today, you can see there, taking a little breather. As the post-election market rally continues, though, a reaction many had not predicted. Look at the market right now, still above 18,000. Eric, I will go to you since you are our market maven. I was talking to a trader yesterday, and he was saying that there is a feeling of optimism sweeping investors where they feel like finally, instead of this subpar growth, we are going to knock the rust off the gears of the economy. We're going to strip away regulation. We're going to see cash come back to this country, repatriated from companies who had it overseas, investment, lighten the load on businesses. There's an optimism out there, and that's why we saw the market go from limit down 800 overnight. If I could have bought, I would have, to bouncing right back.
It turns out everything that conservatives have been saying for 100 years about keeping more of your own money, whether it's an individual or a corporation, is actually an economic boost, a stimulus. So people read that as, look, if you bring a corporate tax from 35 down to 15, companies are going to have a lot more money to spend. When you spend money on capital, on projects, on cameras, whatever, you hire people, you employ people. That, in addition to the regulation, this is a very, very positive turn for the economy.
Yeah, and quickly, you talk about the markets, and we saw the shift because at first it seemed as though they were reacting to the unpredictable, and the markets, the surprise and the volatility was a reaction to that. And then they took a deep breath and went, oh, wait a second. Yeah. Not only is he talking about unleashing the personal engine of growth and ingenuity in small business, he's also talking about this massive infrastructure spending. So construction stocks were at all-time high.
The note of caution is the Federal Reserve, right? And also trade. Give me a little bit on those.
The Federal Reserve, and just generally, if you watch the 10-year Treasury, longer-term interest rates went up big time this week. Went to more than 2.1%.
How do you interpret that?
2.1%. I think there's a legitimate concern. There was $1 trillion drained out of the bond market worldwide just this week. The bigger concern is infrastructure spending, deficit spending, higher national debt, and that means inflation, and that means interest rates go up. That means longer-term interest rates go up, and if there's inflation, then the Federal Reserve has to step in and start raising shorter-term interest rates.
They have to anyway.
To fight it. They will anyway, but again, it's how much.
Before Inauguration Day, though?
But say again?
Before Inauguration Day?
No. They'll definitely raise in December.
And do you think they will? I agree.
But I think longer-term interest rates. Listen, we have a debt that has doubled under President Obama. It is $20 trillion. Our annual interest on our national debt in the next presidency under President Donald Trump, will top our defense spending as it stands now. So that's a concern.
If interest rates go up because of the things you said, there's only one reason that's happening.
Growth.
It's because of growth. Growth is coming back, and when growth comes back, guess what else comes back besides jobs? Wages. Wages come back so people can spend more. This is controlled increase in inflation is not a bad thing, especially when you've had 10 years of no inflation.
Ebony, go ahead.
I will say this, as somebody who was looking for a buy opportunity, I'm young in my investment career. I was really excited when I saw the numbers kind of plunge. I'm just being truthful here. But I feel very optimistic to your points all you ladies and Eric have made about the opportunity. This feels like a moment of opportunity, and I'm willing to be patient and see where the opportunity to get into the space of growth exists for me, because it feels very optimistic.
You know what? Optimism can actually lift an economy.
Absolutely.
If people feel better about their situation or the future, that actually can turn an economy around.
Absolutely.
Because they spend.
Absolutely.
Because they feel comfortable about spending.
They're confident.
There you go. President-elect Trump winning big with our nation's veterans who played a key role in his surprise victory. Plus, on this very special day honoring their service and sacrifice, will Mr. Trump carry through on his promise to help those who have sacrificed so much? And what does he need to do?
Today, we are blessed because it is Veterans Day, when we pause to honor America's heroes. A short time ago, President Obama laying a wreath on the Tomb of the Unknowns at Arlington National Cemetery and paying tribute to those who have sacrificed so very much for our freedom.
We come together to express our profound gratitude for the sacrifices and contributions you and your family made on the battlefield, at home, and at outposts around the world.
Meantime, America's veterans who played a key role in Donald Trump winning the White House are looking to keep his campaign promise to take care of those who have served. This after years of the Department of Veteran Affairs coming under fire for a long waiting list and reports that veterans have even died waiting for medical care. So, Eric, one of the things that President-elect Trump has talked specifically about, I think, is really kind of providing a financial incentive around doing this work the right way. He's talked about wanting to empower his Secretary of Veteran Affairs to be able to fire people that are ineffective in their jobs. And I think for my mother and other people that voted for Donald Trump because they like the businessman that he is, the ability to hire and fire those according to their merit and how well they perform their job, they are excited about this. Do you think this is the kind of change that it needs?
I think he made a couple of promises. He made, number one, the big one, that he was going to end the sequestration. He's going to restock the military with the assets that they need and deserve, and we should all have. That didn't have anything to do with the VA. As far as the VA is concerned, I think his idea of empowering veterans to make a choice: do you want to go to the VA or do you want to go to a private hospital or a doctor?
Right.
And there'll be some sort of voucher system, just like a school choice system, only for the VA, is a fantastic idea. I'm not sure how the numbers are going to break down or where the pay-fors come from, but there's a lot of waste in the VA, and one of the other things he said, he wants to go after those unions, the VA union people, that if you can bust up those unions and some of those, the issues he has there, maybe there's some cost savings there that he can turn around and make it really good for veterans.
This is one place where he showed great sensitivity, compassion, and empathy, talking about putting in a hotline directly to the White House that you will never be left. If you were struggling, you will never be left without somebody to talk to. And I just wanted to point out, he also doesn't want to reward bad behavior, because the VA is still paying bonuses. In 2015 fiscal year, $177 million to 189,000 employees, including to people who were then fired.
Kennedy, I was going to ask you this, because I was thinking about this in terms of if he can restructure this in a way around, as Eric was talking about, hospital choice, because I think we all on the couch excited about that. Is that a way for him to kind of model, look at the success of this, and then when he designs the restructure of national health care, kind of pattern there?
And wouldn't that be ironic if you actually fix the VA first by injecting more choice into the system, which is what veterans want, and then you allow the VA to focus on what it's best at, and that's treating traumatic brain injury and PTSD, and really boosting those systems. But yes, please give them more choice, because when you open up these systems to more competition, you make the whole thing better and you drive costs down. Paul Krugman, liberal economist for the New York Times, said that we should be moving as a country to a single-payer universal healthcare system because the VA works so well. Obviously, he was wrong, but if you flip that and create free market competition in the VA and make the care much better, faster, easier to get, and keep these veterans healthier so they live longer and have better lives, then you take that model and you apply it.
That idea of the hotline, to people out there, that may sound like a little bit of a joke, like you're going to call the president and tell them, but that's actually the way the best corporations operate. You have the office of the president of the corporation, and when somebody's really in a bind, they get through on that line, and what that really means is everybody that dealt with that person along the way is in deep doo-doo. And nobody wants to have their person call that office of the president.
Accountability.
It's a very effective way to create accountability immediately. It only takes one or two calls from anyone out there, and all of a sudden the entire organization gets in line, understands how serious it is. To me, that was a huge sign of how well he understands business and how he could turn around government in an instant by just applying some of the very basic things that we all who have studied business know that the government apparently doesn't know, and that's why they're so horrible at running things.
The government certainly seems to have fostered a lot of mediocrity, and I think people are absolutely done with it. So some college students apparently so traumatized by President-elect Donald Trump's win that they held, get this, a cry-in at one Ivy League school. My goodness. Other universities, well, they've canceled exams and even brought in therapy dogs. Wait until you hear this story coming up next.
Well, campus meltdowns over President-elect Donald Trump's win. Students at several high schools in San Francisco walking out of class yesterday, marching to City Hall in protest of Mr. Trump. In Los Angeles, some students even blocking a freeway. And there were also incidents at colleges and universities. Check this out. According to the Yale Daily News, an economics professor made a midterm exam optional for students left in shock over the election.
Aww.
Some teachers at other colleges even reportedly canceling classes and offering counseling. And get this, at Cornell University, students held a cry-in to deal with their anger and grief over Mr. Trump's victory. Meantime, one university in Boston even reportedly brought in therapy dogs the day after the election. I have an 18-year-old freshman at University of Colorado. I asked him, he said, yeah, professors were really bummed. Really bummed. We'll take it around.
Yeah, my 11-year-old reported that one of her middle school teachers was crying.
Oh, the teacher was crying.
I squealed with delight because I'm a horrible person. But yeah, what I want to ask these
I
professors,
love you that much more for doing that, actually.
The professors, the students, has nothing bad ever happened to you? Have you never been through a breakup? Has everything in your life been so wonderful that each and every choice you made has gone your way? Tough if it hasn't. That is life.
Can I make a point about this, though? So here we have safe spaces and cry-ins for people that were supporting Hillary Clinton who didn't get their wish. But at the same time, people who went in and voted for Donald Trump didn't feel free enough to say it out loud. And our polls were so far off because people were so intimidated about that choice that they had no voice and they hid who they were and lied about what they did. But the other side is totally vocal about how upset they are, and they're being rewarded with a safe space and a cry zone and a get out of your test free.
Therapy
I mean,
dog.
isn't that interesting? They're hypersensitive, and then on the other hand, we're dragging people out of cars and hitting them, saying you voted Trump.
Right. I posted this on my Facebook wall, actually, from a friend of mine. It was like a week or two ago, and I didn't know it would be so applicable today. 1944, 18-year-olds stormed the beach of Normandy into almost certain death. 2016, 18-year-olds need a safe place because words hurt their feelings.
Yeah.
You know what? All those people protesting, why don't you serve this country? Why don't you serve this country like all the veterans who we honor today? That's what makes me angry about it. Well, because, again, they're coddled. And it's this culture of meism. It's all about you. What about country?
No, you know what, though? I know veterans that say that much of what they do is to protect the right to protest. So I'm not mad at them for protesting. The cry-ins, though, it's utterly acceptable. You don't have to like what happened Tuesday night, but you have to accept it. And you have to move on. And the good thing about this country, to Dagan's point, you can serve and look for opportunities to make America what you want it to be.
You know,
That's
and we
the
talked
good
a little bit earlier about the Occupy Wall Street movement versus the Tea Party movement, and both were kind of happening at the same time. So what did the Tea Party do? They went and got people elected to office. Do the same thing.
And I will tell you one other thing. The liberal skew at the university level is amazing. Anecdotally, my son shows up to campus. He's a brand new 18-year-old, hadn't registered to vote in New Jersey. He's in Colorado, and there were literally hundreds of people signing up new freshmen to vote, and they were getting thousands of new registered voters. Every one of them, the people signing people up, had a Hillary Clinton button on. They had a complete ground game going on, and even with that, she lost, so they got to get over. Melissa, service dogs, poor service dogs have to make crying, wimpy university students feel
Although
better.
Hillary Clinton was bonding with her dogs, so apparently.
Did the service dog catch fleas from the hippie sobbers?
Look, here's the thing. Get a job. Get a job. Are businesses expected to coddle these overeducated idiots like this?
They are.
I'm serious. I know that's an oxymoron to be an overeducated idiot, but
no,
but they do exist.
They are doing it though. Because
welcome to academia.
They're getting out of tests. I mean, that's the thing that's really
that actually is ridiculous. I'm like,
don't you wish you were in college right
I
now?
it was this easy. Yeah, my goodness.
All right, they're wrapping us. That was a hot topic, though. We're outnumbered. Just a minute.
Thank you so much for making us a part of your day. And before we say goodbye, we've got some good news to tell you about. Our very first One Lucky Guy ever, Tucker Carlson, has a brand new show. It is called Tucker Carlson Tonight. It premieres at 7 p.m. Eastern on Monday, November 14th. That is this coming Monday, right here on the Fox News Channel. So congratulations to Tucker. And thanks to Eric Bolling. And you got to go buy his book right now, Wake Up America. There it is, back at noon Eastern on Monday, happening